The time is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask you to join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Christy, I'd ask if you'd call the roll, please.
Burris.
Here.
Ray Evans. Bill Lukens.
Here.
Bob Nelson.
Here.
Ron Richards.
Here.
Allison Ritterbush. Here. Craig Romney.
Present.
Caitlin Turner. Here. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a quorum. First item is to approve the agenda. I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. You have in your packages, before we go on to that, I just want to again remind all the council members that if you do vote on something and you have a conflict of interest, please notify the entire council prior to abstaining. You also have in your packages the minutes from the 20th of February council meeting. I'd ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 20th council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. In your packages, you'll see claims. First of all, bills in between for $204,176.35. Ask for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve bills in between for $204,176.35.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the bills in between. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bills in between are approved. You also have in your packages current claims for $62,885.75. Request a motion to approve.
Mayor, I would abstain from this.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the current claims for $62,885.75.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the current claims. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and please note the abstention. We also have in your packages Wells Fargo credit card claims for $7,330.13. I'd ask for a motion to approve those.
Make a motion to approve the Wells Fargo credit card at $7,330.13.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the credit card charges. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Next item on our agenda is communications from the public. Are there any communications from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to personnel. I'd ask for a motion to approve personnel actions A through G.
I'd make a motion to approve personnel action items A through G. Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the personnel actions. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those actions are approved. Our next item is committee reports, administrative and finance. Bob and Caitlin.
The next admin and finance meeting will be April 13th, 1 o'clock at City Hall. Public's welcome.
Okay, thank you. Airport Advisory Committee, Bill.
The Airport Advisory Committee met on Thursday, February 27th, 8 a.m. at the airport. Present from the committee were Don Connor, John Henderson, and Shane Mueller. From the city were Ed Jensen, Tracy Bastian, and Scott Sogi. And from city government were George Cotty, myself, and we had one guest, Bart Crouchton from the feedlot. There was no old business. Under new business, Bart from the feedlot was present to discuss possible interest in leasing the south pasture. Secondly, Ed informed the committee that the request for proposal for the 2020 hay contract would be going out this week if approved by the council, and I believe that RFP is on this council agenda. Thirdly, Ed provided an update on airport operations. Through February 23rd, we had sold 1,354 gallons of aviation fuel and had 90 flight operations for the month. Fourthly, the committee continued to discuss the June 6th Aviation Day. Shane Miller will be the planning lead for that committee. Next, Ed is working with the hot air balloon group to ensure that proper communications take place between balloon pilots and fixed wing pilots to avoid any disruptions in landing operations. And then Ed informed the committee that a potential candidate to replace him when he retires had approached him. He has forwarded that resume for consideration to the mayor. The meeting adjourned at 9:15, and our next meeting will be Thursday, March 26th at the airport.
Thanks, Bill. Custer Fall River Regional Waste Management District, Ron?
Next meeting will be the 12th of March, 7 p.m., Mueller, Civic Center.
Downtown Historic Preservation Commission, Craig?
Next meeting's 3/4/20 at 5 o'clock at the library. That'll be this Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. Evans Plunge Advisory Committee, Allison?
Our next meeting will be March 19th at 12 p.m. at the Plunge. And we just had the puppy plunge yesterday, and it was a good success. And just a reminder that the closure has taken place now for the next 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. And Parks, Recreation, Beautification, Cultural Development, Dave?
Okay, on our agenda for tonight, it isn't on there, but we will be talking about the dog park there at Unmaker Park. First things, I would like to say recommendation as far as the moonwalk for our trail. Scott Sobey has more information on this than I do, and John Gregory, but committee would like to support that and have that process move on. Now, did everybody get a copy of this? Should have been put next to you. I got 3 or 4, so if you need extra. This is concerning Unmaker Park, and we've been working on this as a committee to turn this into a dog park. As you can see, along with that attached with some of the things with the dog park, you'll see a petition's been sent around the community. We have lost probably 3 more pages due to the fire at the vault. So there was probably another 40 to 60 on there that were also supporting it. As you will see on the benefits of off-leash dog park, these are just things that support the idea. This idea of a dog park in our community is on the master plan for parks. Anybody want to ask any questions from the public or from the council?
Would you share how we plan to fund the dog park?
The dog park plans to be funded through supporters of the dog park. We're looking to start a board with an exemption group, and they will have a board as we move on. As it stands right now, none of that is put into play, obviously, because the dog park has not been deemed, or Unmaker Park has not been deemed a dog park. We have supporters that are more than willing, as it stands right now, for the expense of the materials to enclose the dog park. Now, there's 2 different ones, quotations for materials. One is for heavy, it'd basically be commercial style fencing, chain link fence. The other would be a mid-grade. We're looking at $7,500 for the mid-grade and $8,300 for the heavy grade, which would be the commercial grade. These quotations are basically what it cost at that time when we did that. So, and that was at $2,420. That was just here in town, just to get an idea. And in your packet, you'll also see that we have some rules that we would like to put into play. This is supported by Mr. Umaker himself, folks that we've discussed and talked to around the area, plus the motel. They actually promote dog use. They have rooms at their place that they actually advertise. They are dog friendly, and they are very interested in us going through with this, because this will be one of the few places that a traveler can stop, have their dog there with them, and also just basically walk right across the street, parking lot basically, to the park and let their dogs run free inside the park. As far as going on with the city's portion of it, the city is already doing maintenance on this park. And what we're looking at doing is not going to be at a cost to the city. We're going with private enterprise and volunteers and those that are supporting this as it stands right now for the cost of this. The only thing really that the city will be doing with this is the normal maintenance that they're already doing. So we're not asking the city to be spending any money. And fundraisers and programs that we would utilize the dog park for. I was asked graciously by Chris that she manages the plunge, about the puppy plunge, and unfortunately we had a company drop by without, so I didn't get to go, so it was kind of disappointing for me also. But something like that we can coordinate with the dog park. We could also coordinate that with Battle Mountain to see if they would be interested in during adoptions. You could bring your family down in a safe area environment. If you already have an animal and you'd like the two to meet in a safe environment, those kind of things would help other businesses here in town, and other businesses are willing to support us. Not necessarily always with money, but you know, the backing, just the support of the community helps. So, what else? We have, I know it's not in your packet, but we have kind of a rendering of what we're looking at doing as far as the enclosure goes. The enclosure will basically be, sorry guys, here I'm going to go this way and I'll bring it back over. I don't have two of those, it's okay. The enclosure will have two maintenance openings if it's necessary to get something in there. Let's be honest, once it starts getting used, you're really not going to have a whole lot of mowing to do inside the fenced-in area. The fences it'll be set up in two sections, one for larger dogs and one for smaller dogs. The reason being, smaller dogs have a little bit more of aggression. So at the owner's experience with their own animals, they will choose the section that they want to use at the park, to put their dogs in the park. There'll be a maintenance gates on either end of it, and there will also be gates. So when you open up the gate, even if you're in a wheelchair or one of those electric chairs, you go in with your animal, the gate closes behind you, and then the second entrance you can open up. So no way the dogs can escape and they can't get away from you. On that pamphlet you guys were given, you see the rules that we were looking at. The motel owner has actually been gracious enough to say that the parking lot that they have, the dirt parking lot where the semis come in at night, we can use that parking lot from dusk till dawn. They have no problem with supporting us with this program. So in a nutshell, this is the first discussion we've had openly, and a lot of folks are supporting it on the outside. This is the first time I've actually brought it up in public during a meeting. So any questions for you guys, I will field the best answers I can give you.
Does anyone on the council or staff have any questions?
So just to be clear, in order to move forward with your plans and your board, what you would need next from the city is us to designate that park as a dog park, and then the committee or your board can start moving forward?
That is correct. Right now, we have supporters, we have a group already that is interested in being the board, but everything kind of depends on whether or not the council is willing to let us try this program. There is lots of information that I can give you that actually shows that a community that does not have a park, dog park, and then move towards having one, they show a difference in dog calls, pickups by their animal control officers, and as far as aggressive dogs getting together in a walking park, say using just Butler Park as an example, there's less of that kind of a problem. If there's an area for them to basically learn who the other dogs are and find out, basically socializing your animals. If they don't know another animal, they are going to be aggressive. They are going to stand their ground. So with this, I think there's a lot of other helpful programs that will come to the community at no cost for this program, as the way I would like to set it up.
Hey Dave, are you going to use both sides of the river or just one side?
Just one side of the river, because I don't want to
Towards
have
the motel?
towards the motel. And we will have parking, like I said, on their dirt lot, plus alongside our river. I also have all the documentation to the roads, which there for a while, everybody in the past has thought that we had turned over the property that is the actual dirt road, which is really not a dirt road, that is actually a street. That still belongs to the city. None of that transfer was ever done in the past. Took us a little while to get this, but all that stuff was put together. Anybody who would like to see it, read it, you're more than welcome to it. Misty and the city and the courthouse all helped me with that, and we know where we're at on that particular part. And the rendering that you guys are looking at, that's just an idea, so you kind of understand what we're doing. There is a few things that we would have to take care of, but the group that supports the dog park and moving forward with it, one thing would be a place for the dogs to get water. We would have two different kinds of water bowls. Basically, they're a permanent fixture that would be inside the containment areas. That way the dogs don't have to fight over, king of the hill type thing. So you have two different areas on both sides that they can get water. And we do have a water spigot there that we know has damage. And as soon as the weather gets better, we can kind of understand what kind of repair and what we need to fix that, which the group is looking at paying for. We might need the city to help us as far as knowing where and what we need to do, so we stay within the confines of the city ordinances. But most of that we are more than willing to take care of. The supporters are very ready to do this. I have a few supporters that are ready to write a check right now. And to be honest with you, they're really looking forward. My biggest thing right now is to get this passed. If there is no problem with the council, they are ready to get going. So come springtime, we can start doing the work. Any questions?
I would just agree with you, Dave, that this is something the community is really behind at the Puppy Plunge. It was a big discussion about this dog park coming in and how excited they were. And Chris and I talked yesterday about using the Puppy Plunge as something to help generate revenue to help that dog park, that it would be a perfect combination for the two, and that was the intention yesterday as well.
Yes,
so,
and I really do publicly apologize for not making it there. It was not planned to have company, but...
You missed a corgi in a life jacket. It was awesome.
Okay, well, Thank you, Dave. Very, very thorough presentation. Misty, if we could put the motion to designate that as a dog park, and then we'll have to work through the details on funding and schedule and so forth. But I think obviously it's a community desiring to have something. I know we've tried to, in the past, to look at putting playground equipment there, and that just had its drawbacks. So I think it's a great use of one of our parks to accommodate those who have dogs and enjoy getting them out and getting them socialized and so forth. Did you have a comment?
Yes, I do. I don't multitask as well as I should, so when you handed the packet out, I was trying to review it, and I missed what the costs are or aren't for the city.
The cost for the city at this point right now for developing the dog park, there is no cost other than the cost of the city already has now of doing the maintenance of the trees, the grooming of the area. Now you have to understand, once we put this in, there is going to be a little adjustment. Instead of mowing the whole thing, once dogs start utilizing it, it'll be more so using a weed eater. And the way we would like to set it up is so there's the least amount of maintenance as possible. That is the whole idea behind this. So there will be areas outside the containment unit that people would like to donate benches so they can sit there, because obviously not everybody wants to be inside the area while their dogs are there. They need to be present in order for their dogs to be there. But that does not necessarily mean they want to be inside the confinement area. There'll be benches also inside the confinement area, but as right now, the way we're planning it, setting it up, the only cost to the city as it stands right now would be that they're doing the maintenance on the park itself, which is already in play as it stands.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll continue on then and have an item on the next council meeting's agenda. Moving on in our agenda, Planning and Zoning Commission, Allison.
Planning and Zoning met Wednesday, February 19th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. The first new business was Scott just wanted to discuss with the group a firewall separation code and just put it out to anybody in the community that is wondering about their firewall or any fire protection, that they can contact Scott and he'd be happy to look over those things for you in your buildings. Second item was the Mammoth PUD. Scott will be presenting the routing and comment sheets and plans to all city departments, and those will be in our packets with the PUD submittal to City Council. So I saw that we've got that started. Boulder Falls Business Park lot, the group Planning and Zoning had no objection to approve the lot line correction that was put in front of them. The Welsh Oak building was in discussion. We had some individuals just ask about the ordinances that we needed and what needed updated, as well as code enforcement. Scott gave a proposed boundary map from 2016, and there was only discussion regarding that proposed map at this point. There's a couple projects that Scott's working on. The adoption of the 2018 IRC and ABC international codes, post-frame construction in Hot Springs, signed the ordinance and review and update, which he brought a couple of different ordinances that they were going through. And old business is the Fall River Ranch RV Resort use on review is in place and is progressing, and our next meeting is Wednesday, March 18th, 6 p.m. City Hall.
Good quick summary, thank you. Public safety, Bill.
Next public safety meeting will be Wednesday, March 18th at City Hall at 1 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Public Works, Bob.
Well, I hope it's going to be a good summary. It's probably not going to be quick, but we'll get through this. Public Works met on February 25th. Mayor Cotty, Craig, Tracy, Scott Captain Wayman, Beth Spitzer, Dave Spurlich, Karen Meston, and myself were present. Some new business items that we talked about. The committee opened 2 bids for the sale of the surplus property approved by the council with resolution 2020-7. The high bid is from Northwest Pipe for $3,000. The low bid is from Ken Fisher for $60. The committee asked Tracy to have city staff weigh the different metals to determine the dollar value of those materials, to compare the prices Ace Steel and Recycling is willing to pay for the surplus items with the public bids received for the materials. We talked about Chapter 70, traffic ordinance. We're still discussing possible language changes to that ordinance related to parking along City Street. Craig and I met after the meeting to try to figure out the language, so we'll still be discussing that at Public Works. We talked about the Armory building. Scott has been contacted by a private individual interested in the old Armory building and property for a private residence. The suggestion was also made to have the city consider using the old Army building for expanding city recreation programs. Previous discussions within Public Works have centered around using the property for residential use, considering its location in a residential zone and being located near Butler Park and the library. Discussions about the future use of the Army lot will continue. Keep Hot Springs Beautiful spoke with us. Beth talked with the committee about the pods throughout the town. Throughout town, the group has been maintaining for many years. Her main question for the committee is, what's the city's position on the pods in general and the number of pods the city wants included in the road reconstruction project? Public Works supports the pods throughout town, but is looking to keep Hot Springs Beautiful to determine the number of pods their group is able to maintain. Beth and I will meet to work out the details of the pods so that information can be shared with the council and the Department of Transportation. Light Up Our Town also talked with the group. Karen talked about her vision to have poles mounted in the vicinity of Evans Plunge, City Hall, and Dakota Mart to hang swags for different events throughout the year. Light Up Our Town isn't asking the city to fund the poles, but rather to work with the city and Department of Transportation to determine engineering requirements and installation costs. And Karen and Tracy will begin talking about the specifics of Light Up Our Town's needs so that information can be shared with the council and the Department of Transportation. Old business, our brush piles. Future management of the brush piles at the landfill was discussed. A product called an air burner curtain that would allow continued controlled burning of the piles at the current location or a different location was looked at. The air burner curtain contains the burning brush and trees in a firebox that almost eliminates smoke from the atmosphere during the burn. This isn't an open burn of the piles, which Public Works has recommended the city no longer perform. The burn ash from the air burner could be combined with sludge from the wastewater treatment plant and compost from the landfill to make topsoil for future use. The air burner is one option for future management of the brush and tree piles at the landfill, and Public Works will continue discussing this option. We also talked about the hours of operation at the MRF. Tracy contacted the state DNR about access control at the landfill. The state places responsibility for management and access control of the landfill on the city. As long as the city is routinely monitoring the waste that's being taken to the landfill, and the city is satisfied the requirements of the city's permit with the state are being met by the city, the city isn't required to restrict the time the landfill is accessible. The monitoring can be a combination of daily inspections and security cameras. The Public Works Committee recommends no change to the hours the landfill is accessible by the public, and for the city to consider some type of security cameras to help identify vehicles that might dump waste that isn't allowed under the city's landfill permit with the state. The improvements of the wastewater treatment plant are ongoing, and hopefully we'll be seeing the end of change orders. It's old equipment, old systems down there, and they do deteriorate. So hopefully we'll get through that. The Canton housing site work is expected to continue in the spring, and we're excited about that. Is there anything else? The next Public Works meeting will be March 10th, 1 o'clock at City Hall, and the public is welcome.
Thanks, Bob. One other thing, with that burner curtain machine, it might be good to check with the county and see if they would be willing to go in, or at least, help us to get a grant for that, and then we could allow them to legally dump brush there and burn that with that burner. So.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. Once we've all had a chance to review the documents that the company sent us, there's the estimates and everything for the equipment. Once we know what one we think will meet the need and we know what the costs are, ideally contact DNR, see what a grant possibility is, and then go to the county to say, here's the burner we're recommending, here's the cost, here's the grant, will you go in half with us or something, and get them to help and eliminate the problem of trying to control the dumping out there to city residents only.
Thanks, and really appreciate the research into that air burner. Southern Hills Economic Development, Caitlin?
Our meeting has yet to be scheduled.
Okay, thank you. The Southern Hills Golf Course Advisory Committee, no golf yet. Volunteer Fire Department, Ron?
Next meeting is 10th of March, 7 p.m. at Hot Spring Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I forgot to give our schedule for next parks meeting, and that will be this coming Wednesday, 1 o'clock here at the Mueller. Anybody who's interested, please come. If you're interested in the dog park, we'll discuss that after our normal meeting, so please come.
Okay, thank you, and I think I cut it off a little early, so. Okay, moving on in our agenda, we have two ordinances to consider. First of all, Ordinance 1208, and this is an ordinance that looks at our animal boarding fees. That had been changed as a result of having a no-kill shelter. And then Chapter 93, Fire Prevention and Protection, we've made a significant change, requesting a significant change to fireworks to basically align us with South Dakota codified law. This would make it much easier for our police to enforce. We would also add that there would be no fireworks during, I think it's high and extreme, or very high and extreme situations. Bill, do you have anything to add? I know you worked diligently to put this language together.
It is a recommendation of public safety that we approve this change to the fireworks. And again, we are aligning our dates to go along with South Dakota codified law, which expands the dates significantly from, I think, June 27th to the first Sunday after July 4th, and then December 28th through January 1st. That is a significant change. And then from a local ordinance standpoint, within those allowable dates, if someone would choose to shoot fireworks off when the fire danger within the Black Hills area if the Black Hills area fire danger is very high or extreme, we are banning all fireworks during those fire danger levels. Then we would seek a maximum penalty allowed by law during those periods of time. And then the other changes we're making in there under the gunpowder and blasting powder storage. So our current language says that any time anyone is storing gunpowder or blasting powder, it requires them to store it in a manner approved by the fire chief. We're changing that if you are storing gunpowder or blasting powder for commercial use or sale, as opposed to any personal use. So we're changing that. which we think makes a lot more sense.
Okay. I would accept a motion then to approve the first reading of ordinance 1208.
I got a question. Seeing as though we annexed the airport, is that part of the city limit now?
Yes.
Because that's out of the Black Hills Fire Protection District. I mean, you can't shoot them off because of the airport, but, you know, you have it here within the city, and that's part of the city, so. What do we do about that if something goes?
That type of activity is,
Because everybody shoots them off south of the river.
It's regulated by the FAA.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it
it's-
restricts fireworks at the airport.
I know that, but I'm just saying, it's, you know, should it be in here? I don't know.
I think our zoning ordinance says that only aviation activities, and it's specific on what is allowed. So there, and where the airport's controlled, but
Somebody out there like that? I'm just saying.
Okay, we would ask for a motion to approve that first reading.
I'd make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 1208, an ordinance revising Title IX General Regulations, Chapter 90, Animals, 90.08A 2 and 3 regarding animal boarding fees, in Chapter 93, Fire Prevention and Protection, 93.06, Fireworks, to set allowable dates for private use of fireworks, and 93.08, storing gun or blasting powder.
I take it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this first reading of ordinance 1208. Are there any further discussion, questions, comments?
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the blasting, gunpowder blasting for private citizens for personal use, is there a poundage? I know in other communities, in other states, there is a poundage for it also.
we did not, the previous wording was a blanket, and we eliminated any requirement for individuals to notify the fire department, and limited the notification and approval for just commercial activities and resale activities. So the quick answer is there is no poundage limitations or specifications.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the animal control officer, that the change that he or she, but he right now, may destroy any sick or injured animal which has been impounded without holding it for 3 days. Regarding the animal's condition, are we leaving that up to him to decide the animal's condition, or we're having it evaluated? Because I feel like it leaves it a little too open for problems as far as a decision to.
That is existing language in our existing ordinance. We chose to leave that in there, and that is always done with consultation.
I thought it was done with consultation, and that's why I was wondering regarding this wording,
Right.
because it doesn't have that.
It will be. It'll have to be destroyed in a humane manner, and he doesn't have the ability to put it down.
So he's going to be taking it, that the humane manner is what's suggesting that it's going through a veterinary evaluation per se. Okay.
Okay, good questions. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'd ask Misty if you'd call the roll, please.
Dave Burris,
Yes.
Bill Lukens,
Yes?
Bob Nelson,
Yes.
Ron Richards,
Yes.
Allison Ritterbusch,
Yes.
Craig Romey,
Yes.
Caitlin Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that first reading is approved. We also have a first reading of ordinance 1209, and that's relating to business regulations. I think the major part of that deals with removing all references to second-hand dealers. We had an individual come before the Public Safety Committee to ask that or to come with some questions concerning why those secondhand dealers had to be regulated like pawnbrokers. And also, we looked at that ordinance, and there was some language about licensing skating rink, and we felt that there was not a need for that. So, Bill, did you have anything further to add?
Yeah, I think this discussion originated in admin and finance, and then we discussed it further in public safety to determine if the police department felt there was a need for the requirements that were in the existing ordinance to have that requirements on secondhand stores or secondhand dealers. They did not feel it was necessary, so based on their input and our discussion, public safety supports the deletion or this ordinance revision as specified here.
Okay. With that said, I'd ask for a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 1209.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 1209, an ordinance revising Title 11, Business Regulations, Chapter 111, Alcoholic Beverages, 111.02H, and Chapter 112, Pawnbrokers, 112.01, 112.02, 112.03, 112.06, 112.07, 112.08, 112.11, .13, .15, .16, .17, to remove all references to secondhand dealers, and Chapter 114, Public Amusements, 114.02, remove skating rink licenses.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this first reading. Are there any further questions, comments, or discussion? Okay,
I do
go
have
ahead.
a question. You have here on any time on Christmas Day, no alcoholic beverages will be served or consumed on any time on Christmas Day, understandable. The sale, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages on Sunday, and Memorial Day is allowed. I understand Memorial Day, but you're looking at a Sunday where we're serving those as it stands right now, aren't we?
Yes, we are, and it doesn't show the section before that where that language is. For some reason, we had it in our alcohol beverage licenses, that language, and not in malt beverage and wine dealers, so we're just clarifying by adding that to both licenses, because it is already allowed.
Don't they have to serve food if they're going to serve alcohol?
Only if they have a restaurant license.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Are we gonna, so no alcoholic beverages on any Sunday are going to be sold or served?
No, they're allowed.
They're allowed.
It is allowed.
With food?
No, it's only if you have a restaurant liquor license that food is an issue.
Okay. Right. The reason I want to clarify that is because we are a tourist destination. We do have people that are in the alcohol business, so, okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, Misty, would you call the roll?
David Burris,
Yes.
Bill Lukens,
Yes.
Bob Nelson,
Yes.
Ron Richards,
Yes.
Allison Ritterbusch,
Yes.
Craig Romy,
Yes.
Caitlin Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that first reading is approved. We'll move on to resolutions 2020-9. This is sales tax revenue bond resolution. And basically, it's refinancing our plunge purchase sales revenue bonds. I believe Misty said as we looked at this would save us about $225,000 and allow us to get that paid off 1 year sooner. So, what's the catch?
There is a cost, but the cost will be rolled into the loan. The cost is primarily due to the refunding of the bonds. And although the cost is over $50,000, it will only add $25,000 to our principal balance by the end of the year. Payments will remain consistent with what we have in our current bond. The significant savings comes from the lower bond rates.
Okay. So with that said, I'd ask for someone to make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-9.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-9, sales tax revenue bonds 2020 authorizing resolution.
Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2020-9. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And again, Misty, I want to thank you for the research and that you invested in helping the city save money.
There'll be much more to this. It'll take about a year.
Okay.
So by the end of the year, we'll have this wrapped up.
Okay, great. Thank you. We also move on to 2020-10, the resolution, and this is our bridge re-inspection program resolution with South Dakota DOT, where we maintain a contract with Bros Engineering to do those inspections. I'd accept a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-10, Bridge Reinspection Program Resolution for use with South Dakota Department of Transportation retainer contracts, Bros Engineering.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the bridge reinspection. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We move into new business. We have item A is a possible motion and discussion to approve waiving 13 park application fees for the Farmers Market Group for the 2020 Farmers Market. And that will be starting in July on the 10th and go through October 2nd. And that fee being waived is $260. I would ask for a motion to approve waiving that park application fees, those park application fees.
I make a motion to approve waiving 13 park application fees for the Farmers Market Group for the 2020 Farmers Market scheduled for July 10, 17, 24, and 31, and August 7, 14, 21, and 28, September 4, 11, 18, and 25, and October 2nd, equaling $260.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to waive those fees. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion?
I got a question. If somebody else other needs to want to rent that, do we charge them too? Like if you want to rent it for a reunion or something, or like the class reunion, does it cost them to use the park?
Yes.
If you want to reserve a pavilion.
Pavilion, yes.
The covered areas.
But they could ask to have it waived too, just like these people did. Right?
And they
Yes.
want to.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Mayor. This was talked about in Admin Finance, and the recommendation from Admin Finance is to not approve waiving the park application fees. It was a tough discussion for us. When we approved, when I voted to approve these the first 2 years, was in support of the folks getting a start and becoming self-sufficient and being able to move forward into the future. The question that Craig talks about has been raised repeatedly when we look at these. It's if we approve one, how do we then say no to the next one? And it's fair that Main Street's Arts and Craft is asking for the same exemption that the farmers market got last year, but that is an example of what I think we're going to be facing. Each organization that sees an exemption given to another one, it's fair of them to ask for the same exemption. So right now we're looking at 2. We'll be looking at 3 or 4 down the road, but I think we set a precedence by doing this and we get to the point where we're not charging for the use of the parks at all because we're getting multiple exemptions. The recommendation from admin and finance is to not waive park application fees.
Okay. Any additional comments?
I remember us having extensive discussion about this a year or two ago, and one of the suggestions was if it was open to the public, to all public, and no fees were charged to enter in, that would maybe be a consideration for the city to waive those fees. That it wouldn't necessarily be open to everybody, but only specifically following. And I don't know if we ever, really did anything with that kind of policy change, but I do remember us discussing that and thought that would have been one way that we could look at that and these waiving of the fees and why we would do it.
Okay. Other comments?
And I'm going to try to relate some of the things we discussed in admin finances. The fee that we're talking about here is really a reservation and an administrative fee. And it's not significant, but it is also not insignificant of what the city does to maintain the facility. It's not insignificant the amount of extra work that the city goes through to prepare and then therefore recover from a large event, even though $20 a day isn't going to cover all the work. So there was a lot of discussion. It's not neutral for what the city goes through to maintain it. It does give the reserving organization exclusive use of the facility, so that's why that is some of the decisions, some of the discussion that was around the table in admin finance of why the recommendation came out of admin finance to not approve the request. Is that accurate, Bob?
Yes.
May I address that?
Yes, if you'd come to the microphone and
Morris, be sure it's turned on. Okay. The button's on the bottom.
I'd like to thank you for considering that. I'm the president of the Fall River, or the Hot Springs Farmers Market. Part of the reason that we've asked for a waiving of the fees is because we felt that also, as opposed to a reunion or another civic organization, or another organization, or not an organization but a family that might want to reserve one of the pavilions, we're trying to promote business downtown. First, we are collecting sales tax. The city does receive sales tax back from the state because we are paying or collecting sales tax and sending it to the state, who then returns it back to Hot Springs. Also, it is a situation where we're trying to bring people downtown into Hot Springs, where they can spend more time and hopefully maybe spend another meal down there, go have a drink, maybe shop a little bit longer someplace. So, yes, at first you'd think $20 doesn't sound like a lot, except eventually that $260 has to come out of the small vendors that are, we're charging $15 per vendor, and that basically just covers our overhead, and that's it. We're running on a shoestring budget. I think at the end of the year we ended up with something like $300 in our budget at the end of the year, and that's it. We don't make the Fall River or the Hot Springs Farmers Market is not a money-making project, but rather a 501c3. We just don't make money. That's why we ask for the waiving of the fees. We do collect taxes, and we are trying to bring people downtown. So those are things to think about too. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for allowing us in the past.
One question. Do you ever see your group being able to afford in the future the $260 or the $20 per day?
In all honesty, we're a small organization. We're not.
No, I understand. It's just a simple.
Sure, all we have to do is just raise vendor fees another $5. Then we can do it. But the question then is, are we gonna? How many people are going to leave out because they're not making a lot of money anyway? Running a farmer's market is you do it because you love doing it, not because you're going to make a lot of money typically.
Right.
So maybe not. I don't know. I wish I could tell you for sure, Dave, but I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay. Because the Parks Committee has not met and discussed this as of yet.
Yeah, we are paying the $15 electrical fee. We understand that.
Right.
That needs to be paid.
Right.
Because, not that we use that much, but because somebody does use it, we go ahead and pay that, and we think that's only fair. Well, like I said, we're trying to do something for the community also. Thank you. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, Morrison, I do. What you talked about, as far as bringing business downtown and non-profit and those things, those are what I struggle with, and I imagine a lot of the folks struggled with when you first, asked to waive the fees. And that's why I got on board with doing it, is to, hope that, you folks would get going. But what can you share with us, or to help understand? All organizations are going to make a passionate plea of why their organization should get an exemption and maybe others don't. I'm not saying you're suggesting others shouldn't, but individually, when organizations ask us for it, they're all going to have good reasons. How do we decide that this one's an exemption and that one's not an exemption? And I'm trying to understand how we apply that fairly to say that these folks should and these folks shouldn't, versus we just won't go down the road of the exemptions. And some are harmed a little more than others by that, but it seems to be fair to me to say we're not going to allow the exemptions. Help me understand that, if you could.
And that's certainly a decision that you will need to make as a group. But I believe that, as I said, we're trying to encourage people to come downtown. And for somebody that, we're open to everybody. Anybody can come down and be a part and participate in the farmers market. Whereas with some of these organizations or family groups, or they are reserving it for their group exclusively, and you and I are not invited or going to be accepted. We're open to anybody coming in and being a part of what's happening on Friday nights at the farmers market. That and the fact that we do collect sales tax and try to turn it back to the city are the primary reasons that we see that we would ask for that exemption. However, I'm not on the finance committee either. I'm on my finance committee at the farmers market. So I'm looking at it slightly different. I'm looking at it from how can I get more people involved in the farmers market, and one way to do that is keep the costs down. For you, if a family wants to rent the other pavilion and use it for that one time, I think $20, I'd be willing to pay $20 if my family was having a little reunion at a pavilion there, because it's cheap, or it's easy. It's clean, it's taken care of. There's bathrooms there. That's up to you, though. Again, you have to do that based on what's best for the city, and I have to make my plea based on what's best for the farmers market.
Thank you.
How many vendors do you usually get set up?
Typically, we're going to get someplace between 12 and 15 vendors that set up.
That's $15 a piece?
No, some of them, for some, if we have people that'll commit to being there for all of them, we just charge a straight $100. The ones that come for just one, an occasional vendor date, occasional Friday night, we charge them $15. Typically, we will have about half and half, say about, probably about 8 that will be consistent, and we're charging $100 for the season, and maybe 5, 6, maybe up to 7 that are going to be there, and we would charge the $15 for their vendor booth.
So 6 would be $90.
Yeah.
And if they all paid 8 of them, that's $800 that they pay for the year. And we're just asking for $200 and some dollars. What's your overhead?
Well, the overhead is going to be, we're going to be, we do some advertising. We also have to have insurance. We do pay our manager. We have signage and advertising, like I said. Typically, at the end of this last year, we had $300 left.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Comment. As chair for the Parks Committee, we have not discussed this as a meeting. I would like to table this, if allowed, table this new business section A and B. So this can be discussed, and we can get some more information as far as the cost for cleaning up after these events have happened.
Okay, we've got a request to go ahead and table this. I would ask if you would do that, to make that in a form of a motion.
I would like to make the motion table for new business, the discussion of approving the park, waiving the 13 park application for farmers market, and also for waiving the arts and crafts fair scheduled for June. And I think we need to have time to kind of see where our costs are for cleanup after these different functions. So I'd like to make that motion.
Don't we have a motion and a second for the first item? So that one would need to be amended to include tabling it, and then a new motion for item B on its own?
Yeah, we can, let's go ahead and do that.
I amend mine for just waiving 13 park application fees for a farmer's market for the scheduled dates.
And Misty, I forgot who made the motion.
Alice,
I made the
motion.
Would you accept the amendment?
Yes. Do I need to formally say I accept the amendment?
And Ron seconded the approval.
I'll support the amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have an amended motion to table this approving the application fees, and then we'll consider item B separately. Is there any further discussion on the amendment to table this until the next meeting? Hearing none, all those in favor of tabling item A signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We've got 5 ayes and 2 nays. Motion carries.
And to save time, I'd like to make a motion to table section B on new business for discussion, including waiving 3 park applications for the street fair, or arts and crafts fair, excuse me.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to table item B until it has been discussed in Parks and Recs. Assume that will be prior to the next council meeting.
Yes.
So
It could be right back on next meetings.
good. It's been moved and seconded then. Is there any further discussion, questions, or comments concerning tabling item B? Hearing none. All those in favor of tabling item B signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 and 2. And that motion is carried. And Misty, if you'll take a note to put both of those items back on the agenda for the next council meeting. Move on to item C. We have a possible motion and discussion to schedule a public hearing for the amendment of our zoning code to create our first planned unit development. That's at the Mammoth site, to help them develop more into research and academic endeavors. To be able to handle that, they have presented a very, very good package before planning and zoning, and so I would accept a motion to schedule a public hearing to amend that zoning code to create that PUD.
I'd make a motion to schedule a public hearing for an amendment to Chapter 155 zoning code, creating a planned unit development numbered 155.032 F1 titled PUD number 1, Mammoth site on March 16th at 7:10 p.m.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to schedule this public hearing for the next meeting at 7:10. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have item D as a possible motion discussion to award our bid for purchase to complete the removal of the dirty brass, copper, and stainless steel scrap at the wastewater treatment plant. And as you heard in Bob's report, that was to be sent back to wastewater and water department for reevaluation of the amount of weight we had. They've done an estimate, it's anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 pounds. Their plan would be to use summer labor to separate that into the various metals, the brass and copper and steel scrap. And they feel that by waiting till summer, using summer labor, they could save some labor costs in doing that, and anticipate getting up to as much as $10,000 for that scrap. So I just say that because we just got that information, Bob, this afternoon, and I think it's relevant to making this motion. So I would ask for a motion to award and consider the bids that have been given.
I'll make a motion to award the bid for purchase and complete removal of the dirty brass, copper, and stainless steel scrap at the wastewater treatment plant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded then to award the bids for purchase at the wastewater treatment plant. Is there any questions, comments, or discussion?
Is it to award it to the high bidder?
I'm confused here.
I made the motion so we could have a discussion because I'm confused.
Okay.
Okay. What we're doing is we're considering the bids that came in and voting to either accept or accept the high bid or reject it. And based on the information that we got, I would leave that up to the council to either wait and receive $10,000 for that, possibly receive $10,000 for that, as opposed to the bid of $3,000 that we got from the dealer.
So
as
instead of
discussed.
tabling it, we vote now on one of these two.
Or to not award it. is
Or to not award it,
Right.
you can make it, you can,
I'll second that.
To not. I didn't make the motion though.
I
It has to say
didn't-
the
Bob
bond.
did.
But he voted to award it.
and if you vote that down, then we don't,
And if we say no, it don't get awarded.
yeah, we don't award it then. That's the way it's written on our agenda, and so,
And what I'm confused about is the request from Public Works was to have the folks figure out how much weight is in each of those dirty brass, copper, and stainless steel, so we could figure the cost that Ace Steel would give us for that product and compare it against the two bids that we got. It was a comment that was made that the high bidder was, the amount they bid, they felt they could get a better price for it by taking it somewhere else. We don't know what that's going to be, so I guess I'm disappointed that the request from Public Works to figure out what the weight is didn't happen, so we could know Ace Steel's going to give us this much for it, the high bid's going to give us this much, and the low bid's going to give us that much. So it looks like we need to go back and look at it again. All right.
The other option then, if you want more information, then would be to amend this motion to table it until we get further information.
I thought somebody said that Tracy kind of got an estimate of how much weight was there.
He did get an estimate, as they did not take every bit and piece apart. That take a considerable amount of time, as we discussed in Public Works, to be able to do that. So what he did is had Sean and their folks look at the pile, and they estimated somewhere around 4,000 to 6,000 pounds. That was not broken up into what was dirty brass, copper, steel, but they felt the estimate that they felt it would bring somewhere around $10,000, and that's the report we got back from Tracy. And I think as they mentioned that in Public Works, it was not possible for them unless they actually weighed to get an actual weight and determination of what we had in each one, because some of those parts they have to take apart to separate the metals and so forth to get them.
So if we both know we're keeping the brass till summertime when the kids can do it, we'll determine what to do with it.
Now, are we all considerably confused, or understanding?
No, I'm understanding.
I think Craig summed it up, that the intent is to wait till we can get a better assessment of how much product is in each of those categories. And if we have to wait till summer to do that, then that's what we should do.
Right.
And then we open it back up for bid then if we,
Well, we can either that, or we can, the city can sell it, because it has been surplused officially, so we can sell it.
If we add to the pile, we'll need to resurplus at
Okay,
the time
yeah.
we make the determination.
That's something that John will have to make sure we relay to Sean and the group to do a separate pile.
I think we're leaving too much money on the table there.
Yeah, certainly the $60 does not, the $60 one does not cover it, and it looks like we leave significant if we accept the others also.
And Dave, when you say we leave too much money on the table, are you saying you think we would get more than the high bid of 3,000?
If we're gonna, as it stands right now, you're gonna get low dollar, okay, because it's not separated. But if we go through the process of separating, then we're gonna get top dollar. Clean brass, copper is gonna bring good money, especially if it's clean.
Yeah.
So quite possibly, once it's clean, you could be looking at more than $10,000.
Understanding that there is going to be labor involved in doing that. But I agree with you. I think until we actually know what we have in dirty brass, copper, and stainless steel, so that we can ask Ace Steel or whoever, we have X number of pounds, what will you give us for it?
And it is not hurting us where it's at right now.
Okay, any further Questions, comments, or discussion?
I'm going to vote no on my own motion.
Yes, you are.
Okay?
Okay, we, all those in favor of awarding that bid this evening to the high bidder signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Yes.
Nay, no.
Aye.
We have a unanimous. Okay, next item is a possible motion and discussion to approve the plat on lot S28R on Boulder Falls Business Park. That was prepared by Anderson Engineers. You do have that in your package. It was an oversight when they initially plotted it. They're just making a correction there. I'd accept a motion to approve that plat.
Make a motion to approve a plat of lot S-28R and track 5R Rev of Boulder Falls Business Park, City of Hot Springs, Fall River County, South Dakota, prepared by Anderson Engineers, dated January 30, 2020, lot line revision only, no new lots being created.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to approve this plat. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to appoint Councilman Bill Lukens to represent the city during the Consolidated Board of Equalization meeting.
Mr. Mayor, it's probably appropriate that I don't vote on this one, or is this a self-inflicted wound that I should?
I think we will accept your abstention if you so desire.
I will abstain as well.
Okay, we have 2 abstentions, but we need a motion.
I'm not willing to throw him under the bus.
Volunteer.
I'll make a motion to appoint Councilmember Bill Lukens to represent the city during the Consolidated Board of Equalization meeting.
Second.
Okay, let's get this under control again. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we have 2 abstentions. Thank you. We have item G is discussion to approve Kurt's Construction, the wet well repairs, another change order to the amount of $26,000. And this is you do have a copy of the narrative of why that's being done. Tracy had written that up. It's they had to remove and replace the wall holding up the mezzanine. Found that it was a safety hazard for those working in that area. So I'd accept a motion to approve this change order number 4 for the wet well repairs.
I make the motion to approve Dean Kurtz Construction wet well repairs, contract change order number 4 in the amount of $26,766 to remove and replace the CMU wall. The new contract amount, including these changes orders, is $333,157.
$334,000.
Oh, excuse me, that's how good my glasses
No
are.
problem.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this change order. Bob, is there any recommendation from Public Works?
Recommendation from Public Works is to approve the change order. The work needs to be done.
Okay. Are there any further questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We also have a motion to approve a temporary alcoholic beverage license for Bourbon County to serve alcohol at the Chamber Awards banquet. I'd accept a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve a temporary alcoholic beverage license application from Consoler Corporation doing business as Bourbon County to be used at the Chamber Awards banquet on March 14th, 2020, held at the Mueller Civic Center at 801 South 6th Street.
Second.
parks. You know what I said.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this temporary alcohol beverage license. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. We also have before you item I, looking for a motion and discussion to approve a performance contract between the City of Hot Springs and the Black Hills Council of Local Governments, and that's related to the CDBG grant that we'll be getting for the Highway 385-18 sewer and water project. And I might point out, if you haven't read carefully that proposal, that amount of, I believe it's $20,000, is included in the grant itself. So that would be money taken out of the grant to give them to the Black Hills Council of Local Governments. I'd accept a motion to approve that performance contract.
Make a motion to approve the performance contract between the City of Hot Springs and the Black Hills Council of Local Governments to provide services related to the administration of the CDBG grant for the Highway 385-18 sewer and water main project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve that performance contract with the Council of Local Governments. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Also have a travel request for and training for Officer Zachary Schaefer to attend a situational leadership training in Brookings from April 27th through the 30th. I'd accept a motion to approve that training and travel.
I make a motion to approve travel training for Officer Zachary Schaefer to attend Situational Leadership 2 training in Brookings, South Dakota from 4/27/20 to 4/30/20.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve this travel. Are any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Item K is also training and travel for Officer Nathan Cronin to attend the DARE officer training in Pierre for the purpose of becoming our new DARE representative at the school. I'd accept a motion to approve that travel and training for Nathan.
I make a motion to approve travel training request for Officer Nathan Cronin to attend DARE officer training in Pierre, South Dakota, June 8th through June 19th, 2020.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve this travel and training. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And item L is motion discussion to approve travel and training for Pete Miles to get water certification class in Spearfish on the 12th of March. I'd accept a motion to approve that.
Make a motion to approve travel training from the Water Department for Pete Miles to attend the water certification class in Spearfish on March 12th, 2020.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve this training. Any questions, comments, or discussion?
Didn't he just go to this 2 weeks ago?
That was an annual certification that was required. It wasn't the testing. They have to get continuing education hours, and so that was what they did last time.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on our agenda, Finance Officer Report, Misty.
Thank you. I'm just going to briefly review the financial reports. They are through the 27th of February, so they're not reflective of the full month due to timing. The year-to-date profit and loss summary report, you still see year-to-date losses in every fund of the city. The total loss year-to-date at The 27th of February is $486,546.82. We do have a good plan this year. This is fairly common as we pay a number of things up front, and our revenue collection is much higher in the tourist season and in our summer months. If you do have any concerns about any of those, I welcome questions. I'd be happy to talk to you about the expenses that we pay early and the revenues that we expect to generate, and we will continue to monitor these throughout the year. Our cash balance in our main Wells Fargo checking account is $3.2 million. That's down from $3.7 million at the end of 2019. And again, that's just the result of the expenses that we pay early in the year and also the slow revenue collection. Our total investments or funds of the city is $5.6 million, and I do have the distribution of those by institution and by account. We have 2 CDs that will be maturing in April, and I will present 3 options as per our investment policy for reinvesting those at the board April 13th admin finance meeting, if anyone's interested in those numbers, and I'll also report them to you in my finance officer report for that month. I did have a plan to spend most of February focused on the 2019 financial statements. It was a good plan. But unfortunately, I've been unable to dedicate the amount of time required to be finished with those tasks by month end. It is important and still a goal of mine to have the annual report presented to you by the first meeting in May. I have also scheduled our audit field work with Cato Thorstensen to begin the first full week in May. The analysis, preparation, and reconciliation of the financials of the city take a significant amount of time and attention. The majority of this last month, I've been pulled in a number of different directions, but I will get back on track in the next couple weeks. And I'm willing to spend a Saturday or Sunday quietly in the office, which sometimes when you're dealing with numbers is needed. So I'm going to try to avoid that, but if I can't get caught up in the next couple weeks, I'm willing to do that. We talked a little bit about the Evans Plunge refunding. I do have a summary that I can share if anybody's interested. But the main thing is that it will save, and this is after our costs, about $225,000 of interest charges to the city over the term of the debt, and it would also shorten our current term by 1 full year. The fiscal total payments remain stable in comparison to our current bond issue. Again, if you're interested in reviewing the analysis prepared and provided by Doherty and Company, please ask. This will be an ongoing process. It doesn't happen quickly, but we will have it wrapped up before the end of the year. And our plan is to continue to make the 2020 payments as per our current bond issue. In December of 2019, I took the necessary steps to register the city as an employer in the newly established FMCSA clearinghouse. That stands for Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. The purpose of the clearinghouse is to maintain records of all drug and alcohol program violations in a central repository, and it requires that employers query the system to determine whether current and prospective employees have incurred a drug and alcohol violation that would prohibit them from performing safety-sensitive functions covered by the FMCSA and the U.S. Department of Transportation drug and alcohol testing regulations. Employers are required to search the clearinghouse for information during the pre-employment process for prospective employees and at least once a year for current employees. These are all of our employees that have CDLs that are required to be queried through the clearinghouse. If you have any questions about this or would like additional information regarding this new requirement, I have listed the website, and I can also provide that information for you if you're interested. Today, we've gotten a few people in City Hall looking for nominating petitions effective yesterday. You can begin circulating the nominating positions for our 6 council seats and our mayor seat. The deadline to turn those in is March 31st at 5 p.m. at City Hall. Again, any questions or if you're interested in getting a nominating petition, you can get them off the website, the Secretary of State's website, or at City Hall. I currently have 9 RSVPs for the 2020 SDML District 9 meeting. It's Wednesday, April 1st in New Underwood. Registrations, any additional registrations need to be submitted to me by March 12th. As we typically do this time of year, the city's publishing a request for proposals for the 2020 hang at the Hot Springs Airport. This is a standard recurring thing, so we don't have it on the council agenda, as mentioned earlier. There are approximately 130 acres of hay ground inside the wildlife fence. The request for proposal will be published in the March 5th and March 12th edition of the Herald Star. Sealed bids will be accepted at City Hall until 5 p.m. on Tuesday, March 24th, and they'll be open publicly at the March 26th Airport Advisory Meeting. Award of the bid is scheduled to be on the April 6th council agenda. Please help spread the word regarding this opportunity. If you know anyone interested in providing those services to our airport. I do share a concern regarding the large number of unbudgeted, unplanned expenses being discussed and recommended so soon in the new year. I list some of those out, as well as the dollar amount we had budgeted for contingency in 2020. And I'd like you to just please keep this in mind when discussing unbudgeted expenses in your committees. As a reminder, I'll be out of the office all day tomorrow in order to attend the Black Hills Area Finance Officers Association meeting, which will be held in Spearfish. And I want to thank y'all for all you do in our city. I know February was a tough month for our beautiful little town, but we're strong and resilient, and I'm certain that we'll not only recover, but will prosper. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Misty. John, City Administrator report.
Good evening. I'll try to be brief since this has been a long meeting. Like Misty, I feel the big loss of the involvement in the Chinese restaurant in the middle of our town. That was a tragic loss. On other topics, we have the future of our brush pile management has been discussed, and we've discussed air burners, grinders, and always looking for other options. It'd be nice to find somebody turn that stuff into charcoal, eliminate some of that methane gas from our cows. I guess that's always an option. Another topic that's going to be pressing us this week, next week in Public Works, will be alley maintenance. We received several calls about getting some of these alleys dressed up. I ask anybody who's got an alley concern to attend the March 10th Public Works meeting at 1 p.m. to identify your alley and your concern. We'd like to get those early on in the meeting and get those over with so we can at least have a list to go by. We got some budget numbers in from RCS Construction for the West Oak demolition. It's $85,000 as a budget number for the demolition of the entire building except the south wall, using rubble to fill the hole. Add another $40,500 that we're going to save the front facade, which would give a total of $125,500 as a budget number. This is just put together in one bid, just so that we have something to be thinking about. Historic Preservation Commission is meeting on March 4th at 5 p.m. at the library. There are some special guests at this meeting. We have a representative from Fall River County Treasurer who's going to discuss how taxation affects property ownership and how Fall River County plays a part in this. We also have Liz Alamay from the State of South Dakota Historic Preservation Office who will be speaking to us about funding mechanisms for these building restorations, also specifically about West Oak and potential funding for other improvements that people might be wanting to invest money in our city. The Mammoth Site PUD, I've done the early review on it. The drawings were very well done. It's very complete. Looking forward to the public hearing. I think it's going to go well. Parks and Rec, David mentioned the dog park. We covered that pretty thoroughly. The moonwalk was the other item, and that's been presented to us by Emily Hyatt of South Dakota Game Fish and Parks. She's done the same thing in Custer. She would like starting to do that on a regular basis on our Freedom Trail. She wants to begin the first walk in early May. I spoke with Hope Homes. They will be mobilizing to install 2 of the governor's homes very soon. And lastly, I went to Evans Plunge today and I see we have a big leak in our pool we've got to fix. All the water was gone.
Please do not start that rumor. I'm only joking, Brad.
Those springs dried up.
We're cut out for the ADA compliant ramp to go in the front, which is needed, and there's so much activity going on, all the things they've got on their list, and they're all working very hard at it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Well, as far as the mayor's report, it's been kind of a hectic time. Just to start out with, today, Barb looked out the window and commented that she saw a deer running up River Street. A couple seconds later, there was a black dog running after it, chasing it. And, the deer seemed to gain momentum, and the dog was running around trying to find that deer. And that was kind of a start of our day. And it's been kind of, I guess we've all been kind of chasing that. It seems like we've all been kind of chasing that deer today. But it's been a very, very good day for Hot Springs today. We've had 2 very important meetings. First of all, this morning, our congressional delegation, each member of it, Senator Thune, Senator Rounds, Congressman Dusty Johnson, along with our governor, Kristi Noem, attended a meeting with the Secretary of the VA, Secretary Wilkie, along with several members of the Save the VA committee and several others. And if you haven't heard, the good news that came out of that, the announcement that came out, was that the record of decision that our Save the VA group has been trying to get revisited will be revisited. At least that is what was announced by Secretary Wilkie. And there was a promise made to all of us that Hot Springs VA would remain open. Another very important part of that meeting was our Save the VA group, who's been working on some transitional programs that would enhance our ability to treat those that are coming back from the wars that they fight, with some difficulties adjusting back to society. We've got some things that could really help them here in the healing atmosphere of Hot Springs, and our Save the VA committee was able to present those to Secretary Wilkie, and I believe Bob, he received those quite well, as I'm told.
Yes.
Okay. So that was a very, very good day for us. The other thing that we were able to do is have Governor Noem visit specifically with us at City Hall. And that was at her request. She was concerned about the tragic loss that we received as a result of the fire. Wanted to make sure that her agencies were helping our community as they should. I did have the opportunity to relay that the Department of Labor was quick to come down to Hot Springs and assist those that had been displaced as far as employment as a result of the loss, and also with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. While we were meeting with Governor Noem, they were meeting with the various business owners that lost their businesses during the fires, to look at different options of rebuilding. We were able to discuss ongoing issues such as the highway reconstruction, some of the things that we've got going on, expenses, well repair, the economic health of our community, and the building the statistics. And it was a good meeting with the governor and an ability to share some of the issues that we have here in Hot Springs. But again, the big subject of discussion was that we are encouraged by the VA's announcement to keep things open here in Hot Springs, and also we look at the record of decision. I think one of the questions that Governor Nome asked is very important to relay to you as a council, and particularly as we look forward. One of the questions that did come up in the discussion was again that dealt with housing in Hot Springs. We've made strides planning ahead, trying to prime that pump to get workforce housing. We've made tremendous strides by in Boulder Falls by paving those streets and getting new houses. But we need to continue to plan ahead if our VA is going to continue to grow. And that would mean, as a council and as committees, that we need to look at ways that we can increase the viability of getting increased workforce and suitable housing for people that are working at the VA and other places here in Hot Springs. And that may include looking at annexing some adjacent land for development. We've kind of laid the groundwork that we can do that a little easier with the PUD. We've gone through the first iteration of that planned unit development with the Mammoth site, and it looks like a good way of zoning and encouraging developers to come up with developments that can contain various types of housing. And so I'd ask that you as a council continue to look forward and lean forward in the straps to address that problem, because it's something, it's an issue that we need to keep working and working very hard. I closed our little pitch to the governor, and I mean it sincerely. We've suffered a pretty rough month, as Misty noted, but again, I assure you that the best is yet to come for our community. And I think we saw and took some huge steps that way today with announcements made by Secretary Wilkie. And we're very fortunate to live in a small state like South Dakota, where we do have access to our congressional delegations and our governor, and they certainly, to the person, have supported Hot Springs. One final word of thanks I want to pass on is to the Herald Star. Brett, your last paper was met with mixed emotion. Obviously, you covered a very tragic story with great compassion, and we really appreciate the effort that you went in interviewing each of the business owners and getting their stories and getting that word out to our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, my report is finished, and we will have an executive session. I would ask for a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Been moved to seconded to go into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. There should be no decision rendered. Opposed.
missing one. Come on, you guys, get out of here.
Okay, we do have a quorum, we're reconvened at 9:18. Accept the motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned.
What?